Danny, welcome to Podcastina.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for doing it. Do you mind if we just get into the background of how you ended up a matchmaker?
Yeah, let's do it. So I was a lawyer for 15 years and
Damn.
a few things happened at the same time. I was burned out and I was looking for something that would give me more purpose and fulfillment, and it was not reviewing tech contracts. And I also went through a breakup, and a friend of mine who's known me for over 20 years said, "You have a bad picker, dude." And what she had noticed was that I was dating the same type of woman over and over again. So very type A, very anxiously attached. And
You were the women.
they were very type A, very anxiously attached. Yeah, I am avoidant as fuck. So fortunately, I have a partner now who has made me a little bit more secure. And then the third thing that happened was I listened to Chris Williamson's podcast where he had Logan Ury on, and she's a behavioral psychologist. And
Wait, that's so funny. I just looked at that name as a person to potentially have on this show. That's hilarious.
oh,
I'm
nice.
like, wait, that name, I just Instagrammed
Yeah,
that.
I've been following her for a while.
Oh,
Yeah,
funny.
she has a lot of good
Small
stuff.
world.
Yeah. Well, one of her things that she talked about was that we are not evolutionarily designed to choose from thousands of options. And so all of that together, I put two and two together and thought of matchmaking. And so what I do is I give people an in-depth questionnaire that tells me about their attachment styles, their core values, things that matter for long term. I match them in the background. I only do one match at a time, and then I just set them up on a date, and it's an in-person date, and they get to know each other.
Do you work with both men and women?
Yeah, absolutely. So I give everyone the questionnaire. Everybody's in the database equally, and if there's a match, then I set them up.
That is so cool. So when someone is signing up to work with you, do you find there's a through line with people's complaints today?
Oh, yeah. I mean, generally, the complaint in the dating culture is that, I'll say it this way, I think that people feel simultaneously overlooked and underwhelmed. So, in other words, the people that they want to date, they feel invisible to, and the people who want to date them, they're uninspired by. And what's going on is the infinite option problem, right? Where there are so many options out there. This is what Logan Ury was talking about. And I think people think that if they just date for long enough, that they're going to end up with a perfect person, but the perfect person does not exist. And even if you found that perfect person, what the fuck would they want to do with you? Because none of us are perfect, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the complaint. Everyone is really picky. I think the complaint is other people are too picky, and then people aren't holding up the mirror and realizing that they're too picky as well.
The misalignment of expectations. And it's intuitive, right? Because I do hear that there's dating app fatigue. And I do understand paradox of choice, which is you think it's just infinite. You think you can just swipe, oh, this person didn't meet my silly list of criteria. So I'm just going to go home and I'm going to keep swiping. And so at the end of the day, how do you actually know if you're compatible or not after a date, one date?
After one date, well, I think if you're at least curious about the person and there aren't any major deal breakers right off the bat, then I think it's worth a second date to see. But speaking of the paradox of choice, there's that meme where it's this Irish guy who's saying, "You're the most beautiful, smart, funny, you're the most amazing woman. You're perfect. I want to see if I can do better." And so I think even people in relationships have this paradox of choice problem where they don't know when to go all in. And that could be even 6 months or a year into a relationship and not just after a first date.
So, if I'm getting this right, people are coming to you complaining that no one's impressing them, no one's meeting their needs. What should they be blaming instead?
Look, it's the dating culture. I think men are blaming women, women are blaming men, but it's the culture that influences us that is really the problem. It's kind of like trying to eat healthy when you're living in a candy store. So the environment is designed to keep you sampling, and it's not designed for you to go all in on a healthy meal. We're all after the dopamine fix.
Yeah, well put.
Yeah. I will add one more thing to the complaints. I think a lot of people complain that people aren't dating intentionally. And I do hear that more from women, that they have a hard time finding men that are dating intentionally. And so a lot of them are signing up for my matchmaking because I promise that I am sourcing men who are dating intentionally, which is true. It's just in much smaller numbers than women are attracted to my service. When I advertise to men that I'm dating intentionally, I think the second I say the word intentionally, they're out.
That's curious.
Yeah, well, I think that a lot of men, if I were to say to men who don't have trouble getting dates, that I can find their wife tomorrow, they'd go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Give me 6 months, you know, and then 6 months would pass, and they'd be like, give me 6 more months. And I think what's happening is that we're all on this dopamine wheel, and it's really hard to get off, right? I think that people who don't have trouble getting dates, they're having a lot of fun dating, particularly the men. So I think that that's the common complaint from women, is that the men that they want to date, who are in the top percentage, those guys are not in any rush to settle down.
Do you A, know the taxi cab theory from Sex and the City? B, believe the taxi cab theory?
I am aware of the taxi cab theory. Yes, I think there is something to it. I think what's going on is that while these guys at the top are enjoying their dating experience, they are trying to maximize their mating value, and they are going to pull the trigger on a relationship at their highest mating value point. So if a guy is 30 years old and he's starting off in sales and he's starting to work his way up the corporate ladder and he's starting to get interested in women because he has a nice place and he's dressing better and whatever, he's not going to go all in now. He's going to
Mhm.
go all in a few years. The problem with that is that once you're on that dopamine wheel, again, it's hard to get off. And how do you know when you've hit your mating value? I have this theory that I just created called the avocado theory.
Mm.
And it's when you wait too long, like one day too long, and your mating value is no longer at its highest, right? And you're like, oh shit, I waited too long, and now I can't get who I thought I was going to get. So I think that that happens on both sides. I've seen some men who I know who I think have aged out a little bit, and the women that they were dating, or the type of women that they were dating, they're not getting anymore.
Well, that makes sense because in the conversations that I have with women my age and up, and I'm in my mid 30s, like they see men who are 40 plus and maybe even 45 plus. I think just millennials in general, like everything's been pushed out for us because of economics. So things happen later than they happened 20, 30 years ago for people on
Sure.
average.
Yeah.
So what used to be a red flag at 40 now kind of gets pushed out to 45, 50. But if I were to meet a 45-year-old man who had been financially stable for many years, enough years that that couldn't have been the reason he stayed single, it then becomes a red flag if he has never been married or never been in
Mm,
a long term commitment. It's like, that's when it starts getting called Peter Pan syndrome.
yeah, absolutely. Sorry, you want me to add
No, it's
something on top of that? I
it's
agree.
okay. I'm sure that the women are coming in complaining about that. I don't know. Do you cap how old someone you work with is?
I do. Oof. Am I going to publicly say this?
You don't have to like sell anyone downstream, you know.
I'll just say yes, based on, look, it would be very difficult to match people of certain ages on both sides. And there are cliffs that studies have shown based on dating app data that men will not be interested in women above a certain age, and women will not be as interested in men above a certain age. And so, yeah, I take that into account. I'll fudge it a little bit.
Mhm.
It's not set in stone, but yeah, I only have a certain amount of time to match people. And if it's going to be very difficult to do, I just don't take on those clients. The other thing with my matchmaking database is that it's a curated group of the top singles in Austin. And part of that is because I am one person and I don't have the time to put one person in front of 100 people to try to get one yes. So I have a very high yes percentage when I put someone in front of someone else.
That's really cool. Okay. I have to ask something and then I have to ask something else
Okay.
about that.
Multiple threads.
First, I want to ask because I don't know the data pertaining to where the fall offs are on apps. What is that data? What are the ages where people stop being interested? Not yours personally, because we get to blame the app research here.
Yeah. I'll just talk about the app research.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a major drop off after 35 for women.
Okay.
And then there's a major drop off at 40 for men. So I have had friends, male friends, who have experienced this where the second they turned 40, their hinge options went way down.
Mm.
And I have interviewed women who have talked about hitting that cliff after 35, and they have much more difficulty getting matches.
Now, the other question.
Okay, let's go.
What criteria makes someone a top dating candidate in Austin?
Men or women, or just
Let's do both.
let's do both. Yeah, for men, women are so focused on height. So I have found originally I didn't care about height, but I learned very quickly it's very hard to match men who are under 5'10. So even guys who are 5'9, I was finding if I could get them on a date, the
Wow.
the response from women was, I mean, he was great, but yeah. So that's something that I take into consideration. And yeah, they have to, in their application, they have to state reasons that seem like they're A, dating intentionally, B, self-aware, um, C, outward focused versus completely inward focused. So here's an example. I had a woman who applied who was stunning. I mean, she's absolutely beautiful, but her response for what are you looking for in a relationship was literally just someone who's obsessed with me. I'm like, if that's all you're looking for and that's your response, like, I'm not inviting you to this group. So yeah, it's a combination of, let's be honest, physical appearance, being outward focused, being self-aware, someone who seems to be just well-rounded and a good person. We'll cut that out.
That's shocking.
Was that like God coming down and being like,
no fatties? Now I'm leaving it in. Oh, man. Okay. I would love to hear about, like, when's the first time you had a success story with the matchmaking?
Yeah, well, my favorite success story, I matched a couple a little over a year and a half ago. And the day after their first date, he told me he probably would have swiped left on her if he had seen her on an app because she had tattoos and had all these hangups about what tattoos meant. But because of my method, which is I show one picture, and I was actually pretty particular about what picture I showed because I just had a feeling about this. So her tattoos were not showing in the picture. He agreed to the date. They showed up, and a 30-minute date turned into a 3-hour date because there was so much chemistry and compatibility, and they just got married this past March.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. So I think it's a great example of how we can get in our own way, and we have hangups that would otherwise disqualify really great matches.
I'm curious on the 30 minutes thing. Do you recommend a first date be 30 minutes? That seems so short.
No, I think like an hour is probably a good I don't know if anyone really like sets a calendar invite for like
Sure.
this is going to be a 30-minute date or an hour date, but I think in his head it was a 30-minute date, and that's what he told me is that generally he walked into a date thinking, okay, it'll be 30 minutes and it's just a vibe check and I'll say I have something else to do. But they ended up getting along so well it turned into a very long date.
How long till they were engaged?
A year later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then they got married 3 months after that, so it was like a 15-month ride.
Very cool.
Yeah.
It's so nice to hear that. Do you have people that, I mean, I would imagine anyone where it works out, they're like constantly updating you.
No.
No?
No, it's weird. I think matchmaking has this cringy feel to it, so I almost think they want to forget that they met on met using a matchmaker, and So I think I just kind of fall into the background afterwards. This couple was very sweet. They did invite me to their wedding, but I did have a conversation with him over coffee a little bit later, and he admitted that when people ask how they met, they both say, "Yeah, through a mutual friend."
I think that that's so much less embarrassing than saying on an app, which so many people meet on apps now that it's not even fair to be like it's embarrassing.
Well, I think it's because at one point apps were embarrassing because
Totally.
it was out of the norm, and I think apps have become the norm and it's no longer embarrassing. I think matchmaking could potentially be more the norm, particularly since um, I'm forgetting her name, Whitney something, the Bumble founder. I think
Oh, yeah.
she's investing in a new app that's kind of matchmaking focused with AI. And I would love for these big players to get in the space because it would normalize it and it would make it easier for people to sign up. I think that there's a lot of ego involved. I think that's another reason why guys are hesitant to sign up, because I've literally gotten this feedback. They say they don't want to feel like they need help. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I know you don't need help. Like you don't have trouble getting dates. This is about not wasting your time swiping through a bunch of profiles that you have zero interest in and actually going on a date with someone that you're compatible with right off the bat versus, again, wasting your time even going on dates with the wrong people.
Totally. And since everyone is complaining and starting to see the light of why the apps create this environment that's not actually conducive to finding a relationship, not to mention the kind of the capitalism angle where the app is designed to keep you on there. They're hiding people that you probably would like behind paywalls and things of that nature because they're incentivized to show you ads and you're not going to see the ads, so they're not going to sell the ads if you find someone too quickly on them. And people are waking up to that. So I do think it makes sense for matchmaking to be the next layer of things. For me, and probably a lot of women my age, like my first intro to matchmaking was Patty Steiger on The Millionaire Matchmaker.
Oh,
Did you
okay.
ever
I
watch
haven't
that
watched that.
show?
No, but I've heard about it.
Oh, it's hilarious. So all the male clientele, and I guess she had some female clienteles who were millionaires that she was trying to set up. And so she would have basically casting calls for the people that would go on the dates. And maybe this was like bullshit for the purpose of the show, but I thought it was really funny because she had like very strict rules. She would be like no sex before monogamy. So she would not allow her clients to hook up unless they were exclusively dating,
I
which
agree with that one, by the way, but
yeah, no, I do too. And another thing, she was like, don't ever have more than 2 drinks on a first date because she didn't want people getting sloppy.
interesting.
Yeah. Do
Also
you have
might point back
rules?
to the first one.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh. Really good point.
I mean, I don't have rules for my matchmaking clients. I just set them up on the date. I'm like, go forth, right? I don't want to interrupt whatever you have going on. If people ask me questions or reach out to me, I'm happy to help them along, but that's probably happened like one time ever. Um, but in general, when people ask me for advice, I do have some general dating rules.
Hit me with it.
Yeah. So I do think that if women in particular are dating intentionally, that it's probably a good idea to wait before getting physical with someone, because I think that even if a guy thinks that he's interested, sometimes it is just lust confusing that person, and you're doing both people a favor if you wait it out, and then when it ends, no hard feelings, right? So I think that's a really good one. I think generally giving it a second date is a good one too, because yeah, a lot of people say, look, there just wasn't a spark. A great person, but wasn't a spark. I'm like, well, how much spark can you create over a 1 hour coffee at 9 o'clock in the morning? Like, give it a second chance. And I also think the type of date that you have for that second date can really lend itself to creating some chemistry. So it could be shooting guns or um, axe throwing or doing something active, like just
I was
get
going to
some
say an
energy
activity.
going, right? And there was a study that was done. If this is boring, you can cut it out.
No, I love this shit.
But okay, there was a study that was done where a woman was interviewing men over a suspension bridge, and the height of the bridge changed in the two scenarios. And then they gauged how many men reached out to her after the interview. And more men reached out to her when they were on a higher suspension bridge, because what ended up happening was they had this adrenaline going from the height of the suspension bridge, which they attributed to talking to her. And so then they were more interested. So it actually created some spark because there was some adrenaline going. So you can do something similar on a date. I hope people don't use this to manipulate situations, because it's easily manipulable. But yeah, you can go on a date that creates some energy through some sort of activity.
I hadn't heard that particular study, but that's fascinating. And I love things like that. I love the whole hot coffee, cold coffee thing where people, I wish I always will remember the vibe of a piece of research without
Yeah,
being able to credit where the fuck it came from. But it was like some researcher went and asked a person to hold a hot drink in one part of the study and then a cold drink in the other part of the study, and then a totally separate person came up to that person later that held the cup and asked them to read a paragraph about a character and describe the character. And the people that like held the hot drink talked about the warmth and the personability of the character versus like how off-putting the person was that held the cold drink. And it's, oh, I know what it is. It's Drunk Tank Pink, Adam Alter. It's
yeah.
this amazing book about how we're being primed like at all times by our environment in ways that we can't possibly even fucking pick up on. So that makes perfect sense with that. And what I've heard separately about like doing an activity for a second date is because our brains are designed to problem solve. And when you bring someone else into a problem solving situation, whether it's an escape room or throwing axes at a certain target or something, you bond because you're doing something that comes so naturally to our brains.
That makes so much sense. By the way, another book you might like is Predictably Irrational. It's along those lines. And that kind of started me off on this whole thing where there's so much psychology and relationship psychology. One of the things in his book was talking about how our brains are meant to compare, and we assess value based on comparison. So if someone is in a dating profile and they're standing next to a more attractive person, then the viewer is going to view you as less attractive
Of
because
course.
they're comparing you. But he also said he didn't use the word weaponized, but you could kind of use this where if you were to find a friend who is slightly less attractive than you, it can make your appearance look much more attractive because people are comparing you to that person. So, and there was also some nuance. There was another part of the study. But anyway, lots of interesting things that apply to dating and relationships related to just human psychology and the way that we are predictably irrational and the way our brains work.
In How I Met Your Mother, they called it the cheerleader law. If you're with a group of cheerleaders, everyone looks good because you think it's all cheerleaders, and the connotation is cheerleaders are hot.
Yeah, yeah.
Versus if you show up with a bunch of like uggos, then you'll stick out among the group. So this is like not newborn information. We shouldn't be like breaking anyone's brains open with this.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Do you think, like, speaking on the part where you think people should go for the second date, is chemistry always there in the beginning, or do you believe chemistry can be built?
Yeah, chemistry can be built, definitely. Yeah, I think, like you were saying, sometimes it's shared experiences. I think environment matters a lot. Again, if you're 9 a.m. on a coffee date, the environment isn't very conducive to energy or chemistry. And sometimes it's first date nerves, and people don't have the best conversational skills, or they're too nervous to ask really good questions. And sometimes it takes a second date for some of those things to come out. So I think the second date is generally worth it.
Have you ever had to give any tough love to one of your clients?
So no, because they don't really hire me for that. I'm not going to insert myself. There are plenty of moments where I wanted to give tough love, but I do have a very good friend of mine who is also a client, and I did give him tough love, but it was because he was a friend. And I literally called him pathological. I was like, "You are pathological, dude. Like, what are you doing?" Because he didn't want to go out on a first date with a woman because he knew about who she hung out with,
Mm.
and she hung out in this kind of high society. They go to the proper on Saturday nights, and he's just like, it's just not the type of person I want to be with. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, you don't know anything about this person. You're making all these assumptions about this person because of who she hangs out with on a Saturday night. And I basically forced him to go out on this date. And he thanked me later and was like, "You're right. I was totally wrong." And they ended up dating.
It sounds like a lot of the issues revolve around people's expectations of a partner when they're single.
You nailed it.
So, how do you kind of start to unpack? Let's say I come to you with the expectations that we were talking about earlier, where I'm like, he's got to be at least 6 feet tall, he's got to make X amount of dollars. And I come to you with what is probably pretty vapid as far as a list of criteria. How would you turn me around?
I think what I would say is focus on the handful of things that are actually important for compatibility. And attractiveness is one of those things. Do they need to be the most attractive person you've ever seen in your life? The answer is no. The question is, if we just zoom out, are you attracted to them? And so, what I would say is, in addition to that, if you're looking for a guy who is the top 1% guy in the room, you also have to be the top 1% woman in the room. And you need to do a very realistic analysis of where you fall, um, and then assess who would be a really good fit for you. So some of the other things that I would point out in terms of the questions to ask about compatibility would be, do you enjoy spending time with this person? Does this person make you feel like you can be yourself around them? Is your nervous system calm around them, or are you anxious around them? Um, do you have similar life goals? Do you guys communicate well? Can you repair well? Although in the early stages, like, you're not going to fight and repair.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But those are the types of things that, if you zoom out, those are the things that are really the important questions. And so ultimately, what I would say is, look, if you go on a first or a second date with a guy and you enjoy spending time with him, you are attracted to him. He's not the most attractive person in the entire world, right? He's not Brad Pitt, but you are attracted to
But you're
him.
not Angelina Jolie either.
Right? Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and look, you seem to have similar goals and you get along well, all of those things. Just take it one step at a time, man. Like, don't disregard this person just because they're not the shiniest object you've ever seen, because that's part of the problem with um, this expectation, because we are exposed to so many options, and so many of those options are these bright, shiny options, that it creates an anchor in our brain. And we could have this expectation of, oh, well, that's the level that I want. It's like, well, that's not the level everyone can get.
That's tough because I think a lot of people, we just stay single for so long now, and it's become so murky in the dating scene and the rise of situationships, even having vocabulary to describe such a thing. It's like, are you watching Love Island right now?
I'm not, no.
Okay. Well, I'm curious what your feedback on this would be, because there's a couple on there, and I personally think she's a lot more attractive than he is, but whatever. They're both very attractive. They don't put ugly people on the show. And they've been together since like day 2 of the show. So they've had longevity in it for what it is. And he asked her to be exclusive, but he said they're not boyfriend girlfriend. And he doesn't want to put that label on it. And she's fine with it on the show. I think that's a lie. I don't understand the difference between, you're saying you're exclusively dating, but you won't just put a label on it. And so her friends on the show called it a situationship, and she was hurt by that.
Mm,
What are your thoughts on that? Why do you think he's dodging the boyfriend girlfriend title?
I mean, I have no idea, but it sounds like he's not super into her. Okay, this is how little I know about Love Island, but is the expectation that they then would continue this relationship after the show?
It is, and once you start getting towards the end of the season, a lot of the couples who've been together longer, even one of the couples who's like fairly new on this season, you see them have their little moment where they ask each other to be boyfriend, girlfriend. They kind of like go in steps with it the same way you would in a relationship in the outside world, where you like close it off. Step one is to close it off. You're not going to explore new connections. Step two is the commitment phase of like, we're boyfriend, girlfriend. And they'll do like this elaborate ruse where it's almost like the one guy set it up like it was a fucking engagement. He like did a little, what was it? He like took special photos of himself in a photo booth and made her like a scavenger hunt of these photos. And then he met her at the end of the dock and then like asked her to be his girlfriend. It was like a whole thing.
Got it.
So that's kind of part of it, is you're establishing that you're going to be dating and together off the show. So it's a little weird for them to be together for the majority of the season and then for him to be like, oh, we're going to be exclusive, and then be really weird and dismissive of being boyfriend girlfriend.
Could that have been some sort of strategy on the show? Is there like a winning?
No.
Okay.
It's actually better. The more in love you seem and the more committed you seem, the more likely the audience is actually going to vote you through to the final.
Huh.
So it would have been in his best interest to actually lock it down.
Yeah. Yeah, it just kind of sounds like he's not as invested. It's what it sounds like to me, but I haven't seen their story or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
It's just weird because it does seem like people will drag things out. And just from my anecdotal experience, I think if you're like dating consistently, you're seeing each other at least once a week, talking pretty regularly. If at the 3 month mark, you don't know, that seems like cause for alarm for me. Would you agree with that timeline? Or what do you think timeline wise?
Well, it's complicated because take someone who has an attachment style that's pretty avoidant. At the 3 month mark, they would probably still feel like it was too early and they would be
Mm,
scared to commit. So even though they might legitimately be interested in this person, there's just something going on with their nervous system. So I think there's some nuance there. But overall, I would say that sounds about right to be having conversations about, hey, like, what's the direction of this? We seem to be like, does this have legs? What are we moving towards? I mean, that seems to be a fair time frame. And I think if someone is having doubts, it's a good time to express it at the 3 month mark. So, and then you guys can navigate it from there. So actually, kudos to this guy for being honest, right?
yeah.
Maybe he is just. I mean, I guess too. It's funny. Like, how long do these seasons last? Like, how long has he known this person?
I guess it's been since maybe the middle of May or something. But they're together all day, every day. That's all they
Sure.
do.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's such a weird bubble.
Totally.
Like I
Yeah,
don't
it's
even know.
obviously
I
not
don't
real
know if
life.
this is real life. Yeah, but I guess theoretically, in 6 weeks, he might be like, yeah, like we should be exclusive and not see other people, but we should take time to explore this relationship and see if there's something here for something long term. And I don't want to give you the impression that there's more here. I want to be honest that I'm exploring this, but I'm not locked in yet.
Yeah,
So
fair enough.
yeah.
I think when her friend called it out as a situationship, she clearly got butthurt about it. But it's like, what else is it?
Well, I always view a situationship as not exclusive.
Okay.
What do you think? I mean, I kind of define it as we're hooking up, we're not committed, and we're hooking up with other people.
Hmm. Or allowed to hook up with other people.
Allowed to hook up with
Yeah,
other people.
that's fair.
Yeah. Which, what is the difference between a polyamorous relationship and that?
Don't get me started.
Which, by the way, I have nothing against polyamory. I think that people are critical of it, yet they're essentially living it
Hmm.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. The way I view polyamory is like it is an invitation to do the most intense communication you'll probably ever do and to really figure out how to navigate what to me sounds like a fucking landmine of a situation. It is so hard for me personally to even like one person. There's no way I'm finding two people to enjoy.
Hmm.
Plus, hilariously, there's all the memes that polyamory people always kind of look a certain way, and they do. It's always like, "Oh, you make a mean fucking lavender latte, don't
Yeah,
you?"
it's like spiritual fuckboy.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
It's a lot of that. So I'll leave that at bay. I keep trying to get someone on this show who's a therapist who can talk to me about polyamory, and no one will touch it.
Really? Even a
Yeah.
therapist won't touch it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Uh-huh.
I would love to get someone on my podcast who is polyamorous, who's willing to talk about it. But because there's such a stigma in society about it, I don't think anyone would want to expose themselves in that
Yeah.
way, which I'm thinking of proposing doing it anonymously, just not doing it over video and literally altering their voice. I have a feeling that there are way more people who are in some level of open relationship than we think.
Mhm. And I know there are cases where, again, it's an invitation to be really communicative and make it work. I've always kind of viewed it as like the kiss of death. Like if someone's ready to open a a relationship that wasn't previously open and it wasn't something you talked about in the setup to the
Mm,
relationship,
mhm.
then to me, I'm like, well, this is just one step short of they kind of want to get out of this initial relationship into another one. And maybe this is like a let me see if I can have my cake and eat it too first.
Yeah, or like a final attempt to save the relationship by adding
Hmm.
some novelty into
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I'd be super curious to hear what a therapist said about that. So, therapists out there,
Yeah.
please get on
Email
her
me.
podcast and talk to us about it. We
Yeah.
all want to know.
Well, coming back to people's insane out of touch expectations
Yeah.
that they have now, what's the most ridiculous thing that someone told you they got the ick over?
I don't hear much about icks, but I hear deal breakers,
Okay.
like extreme deal breakers that are, in my personal opinion, ridiculous. I had a guy go on a date and refuse to go on a second date because she didn't dance, and he loves Latin dancing. That's like his main interest. And he's like, she doesn't know how to dance. And that's a big part of my life. I'm like, that is crazy. I mean, going back to what I know about compatibility, like that has nothing to do with compatibility or even chemistry. I mean, I know that a shared interest can create some chemistry, but there's a lot of other components to chemistry than that. Um, a quick story about that: my brother-in-law almost broke up with my sister because she didn't ride bikes and he was a major cyclist. And that was something that he equated with a value in his life. And that was something that they seriously had to work through. And 10 years later, 2 kids later, it's not a big deal because, first of all, they have plenty to do together. He lives an active lifestyle, so like they go on hikes instead of cycling together, but he still gets to cycle on his own. And flash forward 10 years later, when you have 2 kids, you're not really cycling all that much anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing, is that we tend to be very myopic and we think about our lives in this moment. But if you think about your life in 5 years and the type of partner that you want to have, someone who's going to help you through a parent's death, or you get really sick, or someone who's going to motivate you when you're starting your business or whatever, some of these superficial qualities that we're focusing on right now really are not going to matter in the long term. Like, this is a blip.
Yeah, that's so true. The hobby thing, like you really shouldn't be getting hang-ups on people's hobbies because hey, go get some friends that will fucking dance with you or ride a bike with you. Where
Yeah.
you're allowed to have friends that do your hobbies. It doesn't have to be your partner.
Right. And I think that sums up the perfect partner concept, where people want their partner to fulfill every single element of their life. And
It's
Esther Perel
unrealistic.
talks about this
Hmm.
concept where she's like, you don't need your partner to, and it's not possible for your partner to fulfill every single aspect that you want in your life. So cobble it together with your friends and your family and yourself. Like, go cycling yourself, bro.
Yeah, we human beings are not a la carte. You cannot go, oh, she's gonna have this and then this. Oh, she doesn't have that. Let me find someone that does. Like,
Right.
doesn't work that way, homie.
Yeah. I remember when I was single and actively dating, and I wanted to cobble together the sense of humor of, I should not use their names. The sense of humor of Rachel and the intellect of
Monica.
Lauren. And yeah, I'm trying real
Just going
hard.
through Friends characters.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh man, and the cuddliness of Joey. And yeah, and it's just, you cannot Frankenstein monster a partner.
Yeah.
But you know, it would be frustrating because I'm like, why can't I just, you know, pick these elements, because I know it exists in these
Hmm.
different people. Why can't I just put it all together? And it's just we're not built like that. People don't exist that way. So my talk track, what I've been telling people is, you want to find an amazing package, not a perfect package, an amazing package. And it is a whole person with amazing qualities and also faults and imperfections, same as us.
What green flags do you think people overlook?
Mm, kindness. I think people place way less emphasis on that. I think people who are self-focused can be exciting because perhaps they're working on some entrepreneurial venture, maybe an adventure. um they get up and they do a run club and juice and whatever. They live this very quintessential Austin life that we think is attractive. And it's like, how do you treat the people around you, and I think that that's something that people discount. um because if someone's a shiny, well, okay, maybe this is better summed up by the halo effect. Have you heard about this, where
Yes.
it's, yeah, so if someone's tall, we attribute qualities to them, like, oh, they're really smart and they're really kind, and like, you don't know that. They're just tall, man. So yeah, I think people will date an attractive person living a cool lifestyle, and then they attribute all these qualities to them. It's like, why don't you look closer and make sure that they're a kind person who is outward focused and not so self-interested.
That's good advice, and it goes to what you were saying earlier of like what's going to happen 5 years down the line. Yeah, is your partner going to be someone that you want by your side when your parents get sick, when your parents die,
Yeah.
when there's an emergency? And I look back at like my own dating life and maybe some not great choices I made that were based on superficial things, and it's like, oh, that person turned out to be someone that I couldn't trust with like simple tasks.
Yeah. So how has your expectation changed in who you're dating over the years?
I think that I was seeking out definitely like the hobby stuff for a while. I was very into that. I was very into feeling like a fiery passion with someone from the jump. And it's tough because like I've built such a independent life. I'm totally one of those women quintessential in my age group that's like, I do everything by myself and I moved a couch up a flight of stairs once without asking for help, which I've since worked through those issues in therapy.
Wow.
I'm happy doing shit like that. But I was so closed to the idea that anyone could or would help me in any way.
Hmm.
And allowing someone in and like letting someone actually help me in ways that I deserve and that are normal, that's really lent itself to me figuring out like, oh, what do I want in a partner? And it does need to be like character stuff absolutely first.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just been, you know, I don't think we need to make ourselves the perfect package first to be ready to date. Like, I don't agree with that necessarily, but I needed to do a ton of work on myself to get to that. But then, and I don't know if I think this is like Sigmund Freud talks about this, but like that you can't actually work on yourself in a vacuum. You need to work on yourself through relational work.
Hmm.
You can't sit at home alone and meditate yourself into some heightened, enlightened beacon of a human being because you don't know where your blind spots are until you're in a relationship with someone else and they start triggering the fuck out of you. And then you learn what you actually need to work on.
Yeah. And sometimes it takes a few of those
It
relationships.
sure does.
Yeah.
What have the lessons in matchmaking like taught you that you've taken into your own life?
I think that it's helped me with the paradox of choice issue. I don't look at other people and think, oh, would that be better? Because I have such an amazing partner. And I don't know if maybe 10 years ago, maybe I would have spun out as I used to do, wondering, is like, should I go all in on this? Like, she's not perfect, and just go down this rabbit hole of focusing on imperfections and that sort of thing. But I think I have recognized that she is such an amazing package, and it's just not a concern for me anymore. And part of the issue with the paradox of choice is that when we have more options, we actually end up being less satisfied with the options that we choose. And so it is helpful for me to be very satisfied with the option that I chose, because I am aware of what it means to be compatible. And I mean, my relationship checks those boxes.
Overall, do you feel hopeful about the state of dating and where it's going?
Well, I'll say this. It is more difficult than ever to date because of our dating culture. And I don't think that that is going to change. I think that the people who do the work to figure out how to navigate the dating culture are going to find other people who are doing the same, and they're going to find their people. I think the people who chase good feelings and the dopamine hits, just like in many other areas of life, I think that they will struggle. Period.
Well, this has been very insightful. Thank you so much for talking to me today. If people want to work with you, Danny, how do they find you?
Yeah, probably my Instagram is the best. Crux Compatible is the account.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. What a
Yeah,
great chat.
awesome.
Of course. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Bye. If you know somebody that would enjoy this episode, feel free to share it with them. And thank you for listening to Galina Ravina Podcastina, the show where I try to be the person my dog thinks I am. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. See you on the next one.